We are back. And something that I don't normally do is live stream. I usually jump on other people's shows, but I figured I would just jump on unannounced, just throw out some topics, have some fun, and just kind of see where it all goes. It's been a crazy week. I haven't done a lot of videos on my channel recently because it feels like it's just everything's so blah, so negative, and everywhere, like the world, the planet, like everything is just feels like it's yeah, and you have to unplug and not deal with things, and not get involved. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that would love to hear my opinions on certain topics, but they are just going to stay and throw the key away. But I did see, I didn't even know that Taylor Swift had like a movie or something out at the theater this weekend. And apparently she did really well with pre-sales. They did $15 million in the first day. It's projected to make 30 to 50 million over the weekend. And man, she just doesn't stop. Football season has started. I'm happy for Taylor Swift. Hey, Anthony, what's up, man? I'm happy about Taylor Swift and the success of her movie. I think I'd love to see what she does going further. I do think she should tell her soon-to-be husband, Travis Kelce, to stop acting. I'm sorry. I don't even know if they're going to get married. I just think I think it's a bad match. I mean, am I the only one that probably thinks that? Maybe. I don't know. I just, I watched the Chiefs Eagles game. I see him throw tantrums and scream at people on the sideline. And I worry, I worry that, what does a guy do when he finally retires from the NFL with all that rage like that? What does he do with it? I've watched the podcast and stuff. I like his brother. I like Jason Kelce. I think he's great. And I think he's kind of carried his brother along the ride for a lot of this stuff, especially all the marketing stuff and the podcast and things that they do. And yeah, I think Jason Kelce is the better brother out of the two. I'm just not a fan of Travis. He just gives off this weird vibe. It's just a vibe. I don't know whether it's his haircut, his diamond earrings, his perfectly trimmed beard, with all the dye in it and all that stuff. I didn't like, the fact that he had that shirt on the other day during pregame, free number 4, that one athlete that was driving his Lamborghini and caused a 3-car accident, and has to spend 30 days in jail. But what's weird about that? They are letting the guy spread that out over like 6 months. Like only on weekends he's got to go to jail on weekends. It's just weird. Not everybody gets breaks like that, but if you're an NFL player with millions and millions of dollars, the justice system is a totally different thing for you. But there's just things about Travis Kelce that just don't sit well with me, and I worry about Taylor. I do. I honestly worry about her. I know she's got, good people around her and guiding her. And I think the Swifties would go nuts if something went south anyway between those two. But I do worry for her. Yeah, Travis he just comes across as bad news, just bad news. But anyway, I'm happy that her movie's successful. I think, she's going to go on to probably make lots of film projects going forward. And I'm excited for her and any kind of music tie-ins that she has, albums and stuff coming in the future. But yeah, maybe I think we're going to have a breakup song coming up soon. I just kind of feel it, because I don't even think he bought that engagement ring. I think she picked it out and bought it herself. So I don't think he's got the smarts to pick out a good ring. You know what they say about football players. I mean, I don't want to blanket, make fun of all of them as meathead jocks, but Travis Kelce just comes across as a meathead jock to me. But anyway, enough about Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. We all know how I feel. And that Jason Kelce is the better brother. Ah, and I'm seeing that Sylvester Stallone had an idea that he tried to get up off the ground of a de-aged young Rambo, and that he would play the character. And I'm at a point where I want all these characters truly to just not exist anymore. Like, no more movies. They're rebooting Rambo as it is, and bringing him in as a young cadet when he first goes into the military in the Vietnam War and all that. I don't know if there's an audience for that. Who wants to see that? And if Stallone's not involved in any capacity, I don't know. Um, the de-aging thing, I thought it was fun when they did that with Harrison Ford in the Dial of Destiny. They've been sprinkling that in the Book of Boba Fett with Mark Hamill, and Rogue One with Princess Leia, Carrie Fisher, and I think we're going to see an appearance of all three, Luke, Leia, and Han in Grogu, in The Mandalorian and Grogu. I think we're going to see that. And but I don't know. Why can't we just recast people? Like, why can't we just get new people in those roles? But I just don't see. There's certain roles. I watched The Running Man the other day with Arnold Schwarzenegger, the original. And yes, it's a little cheesy because it's 80s, and the music, I think, is the worst. It's the worst music for that movie. It's just this really bad 80s music, keyboard kind of soundtrack. But every remake that they have tried to put out, whether it be Total Recall or whatever, of an Arnold Schwarzenegger film, it has failed at the box office. And I know that Glenn Powell has his new Running Man coming out soon, but I don't think it's going to be successful. I think, when you try to remake Arnold Schwarzenegger films, you can't do it. I mean, when they did the Conan with Jason Momoa, there was something about Arnold Schwarzenegger that nobody can touch. They just can't. You just can't remake successful films that were done by Arnold Schwarzenegger. You just can't. It's stupid, And so I really think that they should let that go. But yeah, and I think Arnold at some point, he probably takes a little bit of pride in the fact that all these movies keep bombing that they try to remake that were his, because he's just an icon. And I don't know if that's a good idea, remaking Arnold Schwarzenegger movies. I think that's a terrible idea. How's everybody doing with the Disney Plus and Hulu subscription unsubscribing kind of campaign that's going on right now? Apparently it is really hurting Disney. So if you really want to give it to them, unsubscribe, I guess. But they're sending a lot of these people and offering them $2.99 a month for like Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN for like a 6-month period. And that's just to retain the numbers, because if you do that deal, that's a good deal, $2.99 a month for 6 months. But that's what they're trying to do. So if you try to unsubscribe, they're going to give you that option. And I think they're hoping that, because of the way the 24-hour news cycle works and the way people's memories work, is that 6 months down the road, they can go back to the regular price and they'll be okay. But they can't lose the number count, because that's like the biggest thing for them is the numbers, because it justifies all that stuff. All the stuff that they're doing when they take out bank loans to make movies and TV shows and all that kind of stuff. That's it. They need the head count. But apparently it's been really successful. This thing with Jimmy Kimmel's kind of blown my mind. I don't want to get into politics at all, but I feel like we shouldn't be, censoring satirical political humor. Both sides do it, and it should remain that way. Let both sides do it. But yeah, what do you guys think about the Disney thing going on? That's just kind of crazy to me. But and then I started thinking because I think it said Disney had lost 4 billion or something. Their stock just was cut in half. And my thinking is, why can't we do that for other things? Like, we all can come together for Jimmy Kimmel as a nation, millions and millions of people, and just be like, we're not spending that money. We're not going to do that. Why can't we do that for, why can't we do that for the medical industry? Why can't everybody who's got Blue Cross and Blue Shield, let's say it's like, 100 million people, and all of them just stop paying their premiums for 1 month, and then literally cripple them for 1 month, and they hemorrhage and they're freaking out, and then they've got to lower costs. Like, if we have the power to do that to Disney and boycott the parks, or boycott, the Hulu and Disney Plus, why can't we do that with other industries? Why can't we have a national week where everybody fills up their car tank on Monday, but nobody fills up for the rest of the week? And we literally just like squeeze that industry so much that they hemorrhage money and they've got to reduce prices. Or grocery stores. What if we literally everybody just buys the basics for 1 week, and no more impulse stuff at the register, no candy bars if you go to fill up at the gas station and all that kind of stuff. Hey, Matt, what's up, brother? I'm bored, and I'm throwing out a live chat. I hardly ever do this, so I'm just throwing this out here, and got crazy topics and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, yeah, why can't we all just do that as a country? Just come together and be like, let's just all, not just Disney and Hulu and all that, let's just just pull all of our resources and stop paying the bill, and see these industries just cripple and go, we'll do anything. We'll roll back prices to 1964. I mean, it seems like it's unrealistic, but look what's happening to Disney. It's crazy. It's crazy. I haven't unsubscribed yet from Disney. I have a 5-year-old. It's really hard to unsubscribe, but I might. I talked to the wife today about, going in and saying we were going to unsubscribe and then get that $2.99 offer for 6 months. So at least they can keep the head count, but we get that cut rate, for the 6 months. I might be able to get her to flip on that one. The thing is, we have it so intertwined with ESPN and Hulu and all this kind of stuff, and with our phones and everything. And it's just a little nerve-wracking to do that and cancel all the passwords and then to restart. I don't know. It's like, to just cancel the whole thing's a pain in the butt. But I appreciate everybody that is canceling their Disney. I do, but my 5-year-old would cut my throat. She would have a shank in the middle of the night, and she'd stick it right between my ribs, and she'd shank me like we were in a prison if I took away her Disney princesses. I'm just saying that could be a thing, and I'd like to avoid that as much as possible. Robert Redford passed away, a little while ago. And I didn't get a chance to really talk too much about it online. I had a lot of friends, quite a few friends that worked on The River Runs Through It. And I kind of reached out to them, and we were texting back and forth about Robert Redford. And I've got quite a few other friends that I were posting pictures with Robert Redford. What are you saying, Matt? Here, we canceled Disney Plus, and so far my kids haven't gone feral yet. I'm gonna bring it back up tomorrow. I'm gonna bring it back up tomorrow with the wife. She's watching. She's on Hulu right now in the other room, watching she's a Special Victims Unit. The Law and Order. She's a Law and Order fan, and I take that away. I'm on the couch. It's not warm on the couch. So we'll see. These are the obstacles I'm having, because I can live without all of it. I've got enough DVDs, enough Blu-rays. I've got all my favorite movies of all time. If all the streaming stuff went away tomorrow, I would still be fine. So yeah, but back to Robert Redford. I've got a lot of friends that were on my Facebook, a lot of film crew members that I work with, and they're sharing pictures with Robert Redford from all these different movies over the years. And I was like, oh man, you worked on that? Oh my God. I just, it's a funny thing. What is saying, Matt? I'm not even a big, I keep forgetting I can do this. Can I do this? Yeah, I'm not even a big fan of Jimmy Kimmel, but it's the principle. No, I agree 100%. I only watch Jimmy Kimmel like clips if they come across like a feed on TikTok or something like that. I don't stay up to watch. I don't watch any of the late night shows. I only see the clips. And the thing about it is the clips online have to have some sort of worth, right? Like they have to bring in revenue if those clips are getting millions of views, the opening monologues and stuff like that. So they're and then advertising in it. So if it's a YouTube channel and Disney's dropping ads on their own stuff, or ABC and all, I mean, it's all part of it now. Like you can't separate, oh, it's just TV advertising. No, it's like it's across platforms. So I get it. I don't really watch a lot of his stuff either. I think I stopped watching a lot of the late night stuff when Letterman went away. I would go out of my way to watch Letterman. I would. But I don't watch any of them. Even Colbert, I'd only see the clips. So, oh yeah, sorry, Robert Redford. Yeah. And all my friends that work in the film industry, I just thought it was really interesting to see all of their photos and stuff of Robert Redford. And it was really nice. And one of these days I'll get some of my buddies on to do a stream that I work in the film industry with, and they can share those stories, because some of those stories will just go to the grave and you'll never hear these cool things about Robert Redford. Now what do we got here? Stephen Colbert gets better ratings on TV than Kimmel does, but Kimmel has 20 million YouTube subscribers. Oh, Jesus Christ. That's why. Yeah. I mean, could Kimmel just do a streaming show straight to YouTube and be done with it? Or are they going to try to shut down Google next? That's really the problem. They could probably just end the terrestrial broadcast of the show and still find a way to turn apart. Yeah, you might be right, and maybe that's what they're trying to work out. Maybe he can just literally do his show on YouTube, and that's it, with 20 million people. It's a lot of eyeballs. But the thing about it, even if you have 20 million subscribers, this, like I've got 7,000 subscribers to my channel, and my videos will get 200 plays. So you can have 20 million, but is he clocking those kind of numbers for his videos? Or are they still like 10,000, 5,000 views, 8,000 views of a clip? I don't know. I'd have to go look. But yeah, if it's worth it money wise to do it that way, then yeah, maybe they should do it that way. I saw the picture of Ryan Gosling for the Starfighter, and that other kid. I don't know the kid's name. Do I have to know the kid's name? There's so much speculation that's going on with all that. And I'm not really excited about it. All right, here we go. Let's go back to Matt. Generally, the monologue is what does the best. Yeah, this also happens for Colbert. Okay. Yeah. Who's that? Who's that? Majir? I don't even know who that is. Is that from the Daily Show? Is that somebody on the Daily Show? I don't know. Go back to work, man. Yep. I'll chat with you later, brother. Thanks for stopping in. I appreciate it, man. Starfighter. Yeah. So we got this picture of Ryan Gosling and this new kid. And what I hope the kid, who I hope the kid isn't? I hope the kid is not Ryan Johnson's broom boy. That's what I hope that the kid is not. I don't want it to be broom boy from The Last Jedi. I don't, but I don't think it will be. I think it'll be somebody totally different. If it's a standalone movie like, Rogue One and it's intertwined somewhat, but not really, it's like a self-contained thing. Solo, a Star Wars story, I thought was a really good standalone story. So am I looking forward to this? I haven't been excited for anything Star Wars in a long time. And even what I've seen from the Mandalorian and Grogu video that's been online, from whatever that was, either D23 or Star Wars Celebration Japan, that didn't get me really excited either. I mean, everybody's like, oh, they gave Din, the Mandalorian, his hallway scene. But isn't that kind of done by now at this point? Like, we've seen Luke get his hallway scene in the Mandalorian and season 2 finale. We've seen Darth Vader get his hallway scene We've seen it used time and time again in like Guardians of the Galaxy with a hallway scene, and like they're just, and didn't they do that in the Thunderbolts? They do a hallway scene in the Thunderbolts. I just feel like now it's being overplayed. You know, Deadpool Wolverine. I think they might have done it in Deadpool Wolverine, something similar to it, where it was just nonstop chaos as they moved forward. Um, yeah, it feels played out to me. What about you? You think it's been played out? Oh, let's see what we got here. Let's put Deadline in here. Let's check out Deadline. Where are we at with Deadline? Is this Deadline? No. Where's Deadline? Here's Deadline. So I was looking earlier on Deadline. We'll go back to the top here. Yeah, this is the thing I saw that with Taylor Swift with the show. Is it a music show? I don't even know what it is. I don't want to know. I mean, I'm not going to run out and see it. Yeah, and then you got Sylvester Stallone with the de-aging thing. Yeah. Mark Ruffalo warns Disney stock price will drop a lot further if ABC cancels Jimmy Kimmel Live. Well, why is that? I mean, what? I'm not subscribing to that. I always tell people, I when I get on people's live streams and they pull up articles that they've never read, and then they kind of like stumble through them, and I always warn myself. I say, you know what, you don't read an article that you haven't read at least once all the way through, so that the pacing and if there's any words that throw you off and all that kind of stuff. And it just frustrates me to see people do that online. And I'm not going to be reading the article here. I wish they had the thing where you could hit the button and have an audio play, because then we could listen to it together. But yeah, you're seeing a lot of people come out against this. I think I was most shocked with Michael Eisner when Michael Eisner came out and he basically called Bob Iger a pussy, for caving. I thought that was some balls. Excuse me. I worked on a movie with Michael Eisner's son, Breck Eisner. It was called The Crazies. It starred Timothy Oliphant, and Breck Eisner was super, super nice, and what a great director too. Just like a really nice. I don't know why he never really did more than what he did in his career, but yeah, I mean, it's weird that he never really. I don't know whether it was because his movies weren't successful. Yeah, it almost looks like the last movie he did was in 2010. It was The Crazies, the movie that I worked on. And looking him up on IMDb. Oh yeah, he directed Sahara. That was a big hit. I liked Sahara. The Expanse. He did 14 episodes of that. The Last Witch came out in 2015. He directed that. I just always liked Breck Eisner. I thought he was a great guy. And so yeah, pretty cool that his dad came out and basically was talking some smack here about Bob Iger. But I think, like, when you look at what Bob Iger had to go through with having to pull back on Chapek and everything that went down in Florida, and all the rezoning that DeSantis was trying to do down there to get back at Disney, and not let them do their expansions and hold on to the land that they had, and all that kind of stuff. I think he's just gun shy with all the politics. He doesn't want to get involved because he doesn't want to get bullied, by the current administration, which it seems like that's what they've been doing. They just, anything they don't like, they just steamroll it. And they're all caving. They're all caving like a bunch of pussies. But I don't want to talk about politics, but it's almost hard. It's like, it's so intertwined now. It's so intertwined when it comes to, hey, Anthony, what's up, man? It's so intertwined, like you got the governor of California passing, the $700 million in credits. to try to bolster the film industry. And then you got like John Voight, trying to get a national wide film industry incentive that was supposed to be in the big beautiful bill, and it never made it in, which kind of sucks for a lot of states that were looking for a little extra help to try to stay competitive with all the stuff going overseas. But yeah, it's like everything's so intertwined. Like you can't even talk about Disney without talking about DeSantis and all the stuff down there, and the politics. And I guess it is what it is, man. But I don't like it. I like my entertainment separate from politics, but it doesn't seem like that's a thing. Doesn't seem like that's a thing. Um, I went and I enjoyed seeing Jaws at the box office for its 50th anniversary when it had its run. It was pretty cool. It raked in like 15 million bucks. And that was nice, to see a movie that's, 50 years old and to be able to pull in $15 million at the box office. And I saw it in 3D, which I have to say the Jaws 3D conversion that they accomplished with this movie, one, it wasn't distracting. It made the movie feel immersive, where there was a lot of depth of field. There wasn't stuff coming out at you or anything like that. They didn't do any of that kind of stuff, but everything had a depth of field to it that made you really feel like, when the mayor and everybody was discussing stuff in that little city hall, it felt like you were sitting in the city hall with everyone else because, whoa, shit, because everyone else was layered in there. So when you're looking at it, everyone's layered, and it did that throughout the whole movie. And I really think it was the best post conversion of 3D that I've ever laid my eyes on. And I'm sure Spielberg had a lot to do with it. He probably said, you know what, we are going to make sure that this movie is done correctly. And, if they're going to enjoy it in a 3D setting, that it's going to be top tier. And it was better than any post conversion I've ever laid eyes on. So got to tip my hat off for that one. I didn't get to see it in IMAX when it was, I could have, but my wife and I had gone to a screening of Jaws back in July with a full orchestra, one of those concerts. And so that was my birthday gift. My birthday was in April. The concert didn't show up till July, but we bought the tickets ahead of time. And so I went and saw that with the North Carolina Symphony at one of the local venues here that we have called the Wilson Center. And it was amazing to have it with a live orchestra. So I was like, well, I could theater hop and go do the IMAX and then but I was like, you know what? I just want to see it in 3D again. Cause when it was released in 3D for, I think either the 40th anniversary or it was the 40th anniversary. It might've been when it was released in 3D. I said, I never want to watch the movie except in 3D again, cause it was so amazing. But I'm glad that they did, it was the 4K restoration of the film, which I think is the best, 4K restoration I think we've ever seen. And I thought it was great. There's a great behind the scenes on the Blu-ray that I purchased, and it's up on YouTube. You can find it all about the restoration. They did a wet gate, scan of the original negative and cleaned up all the shots and they did so much work on this movie. I will say, they did a surround sound, because it was, like a mono track or whatever, stereo when it was originally released, but they did split it up and do all that kind of stuff. And they did do some new Foley on the movie. And I do miss some of the original sounds that were put in, the rifle sound and Brody's gun when he's shooting. The original sounds for me that they had dropped in and mixed in were better than what they were when they did the restoration and they added those sounds in. They did upgraded, gunshot noises, and I was like, eh. And they did that in the 4K release special edition of Terminator. They changed the gun noise of the 45 long slide with the laser sighting So when he shoots throughout a comma, and then he pushes the door in and shoots her, and the gun noise is completely different from the original. And so, like, what's ingrained in my head from a kid when I saw that in 1984, and all the years I've watched on VHS, and then when they got the DVDs, Terminator, the gun sound is so ingrained in my head. When they changed it, I was like, that's not cool. Like, you did, I mean, the sound is cool, but it's not like the original. It had this weird, you'd have to compare the two. But they did the same kind of stuff with Jaws, where they added things in that didn't take away, it enhanced, but it also took the memory of what that originally was, kind of, and pulled it out a little bit for me. But the restoration of Jaws was just absolutely beautiful. It just looked, just I could talk about it for hours. But such a great movie, you know. Uh, but other than that, it's been a wild week. I haven't weighed in on any of the crazy stuff, man. And I'm seeing stuff every day, you know, and it's everything's so cringy. It's almost like the world is completely imploding for everyone, and I'm just trying to survive. Tony Izzo, howdy, howdy. What's up, man? There will be blood is better. What do you mean there will be blood is better? What are you talking about? What are you talking about, Anthony? I need a little bit more than that. Um, I've seen There Will Be Blood, but I don't know what the reference is there. But yeah, how has everybody else's day been? Because it's just, yeah, I've been pulling a lot of night shifts. There hasn't been a lot of film work where I'm at. We were supposed to do reshoots on a movie I shot last year called Capsized. But because of the new qualifications and paperwork that you have to go through for a work visa in the United States, the lead actor on the film couldn't get all the paperwork in line, and so the movie had to do the reshoots in Canada uh, because they could get the paperwork done in time. And so, yeah, and I was looking up here. I don't even see that on IMDb. I'm looking on IMDb. Maybe it's on IMDb Pro. I should probably look myself up so I can pull up the credit, but I'll tell you real quick. Yeah, that's me. Yep, IMDb. Pull me up. Let's see. Trying to find the credit. Yeah, Capsized. So, where's my actor? Where's the guy? He was in Spider-Man. Where's he at in the credits? Where's he at in the credits? Where's he at in the credits? This is crazy. Bear with me, guys. I'm just trying to figure this one out. Oh my God. I don't even see him in the credits now. I hope they're not reshooting all his work. That would be crazy. He played the Lizard in Spider-Man. What was that actor's name? Amazing Spider-Man. Amazing Spider-Man. Oh, Andrew Garfield, Emma Stone, and Reese Ifans. Yeah, anyway, he's I guess having a problem, getting the work visa stuff situated because of all the new paperwork that they've done, because it's so hard to get any kind of visa or green card or anything like that, to be in the United States. I mean, they just had 400 Koreans that had the proper visas kicked out of the country. ICE raids. I mean, this kind of stuff is scaring even actors from coming to the country to work, you know? So pretty sad stuff. But yeah, so we were supposed to work on that, the reshoots on that, and then it went to Canada. So, but they just made an announcement that, and we kind of knew it already. The crew, we've just been kind of waiting. I worked on all 3 seasons of The Summer I Turned Pretty, and the last season just ended on Amazon. And then just before the last season finale, it all hit the trades that they're doing a movie to wrap up the whole thing. Because they finished where the books were. So as of right now, the books are the books. And I think they kind of changed the ending, and now they're going to do a 2-hour movie. And so I think we're going to be up and running in February or March of next year. But yeah, so, there hasn't been a lot of film work. We shot a pilot. There was a pilot that was shot here, called RJ Decker, and it's for ABC. And they were hoping to get 22 episodes, and it was going to shoot here, but they opened up production offices. They shot the pilot here, and then they opened up production offices for like a week. And then they were approved for some of the incentive money from California. So they moved the whole show to Los Angeles to shoot. And it kind of, it burned, 200 crew members here in my hometown, who, worked on the pilot or whatever. They were looking forward to having this thing for 22 episodes, which would give them a year's worth of work. But now it's gone. My hometown has or the state of North Carolina where I live on the coast, at the beach, that we have a 25% tax credit. And I think they have a little bit more in California, or might be the same, but if you're going to get the money in California, there's no need to come here to do it. And so, yeah, we're really disappointed. We were hoping that show was going to be here. And then the other show that was on Netflix, The Waterfront, that seemed to have a really good start, as far as its streams. And we were hoping we had that show for another season. They shot 8 episodes here, and then they canceled that show after one season. And I think they said the fall off rate, as more people watch the show towards the last couple of episodes, there was a fall off. So a lot of people didn't complete the show. So that was a key indicator for Netflix to not renew it for another season. But what was crazy was the lead actor was doing all of the press junket stuff for it when the first episode aired, and he had signed a multi-season deal up front. And so everybody was kind of excited when he was talking about that on Entertainment Tonight or something like that. But then the show just goes away. Everybody was bummed. Everybody was bummed. And that's the thing about Netflix. I've got a lot of good friends that work at Netflix, but they got a weird way of like analyzing what show is going to be successful. And so like if you get a movie made at Netflix, you should be so proud. If you get one season out of anything, you should get so proud, be proud of that, but never look towards the future of it being like a multi-season thing, because it's just, you never know. Something could go 3 seasons on Netflix, something can go 8 seasons on Netflix, but you never know. They'll pull something, even if it was a semi-hit. And that's the difference between like network television would give another season to something to try to build that audience. They don't do that anymore, because everyone's retention is like the TikTok retention, 30 seconds, 60 seconds, 4 minutes. Once you do that, that's the world we live in now, where nobody wants to invest in television shows and characters and let things breathe and build, and that's why I feel like a lot of shows tell non-linear stories, where each episode they'll go do a flashback of something to explain something to keep people's attention, because people will if you leave them with too many questions, although I like thinking the audience has a little bit of intelligence, that they ask questions. Well, why would that guy do that? Well, then the next scene they show him as a kid getting bullied or something, and then, oh, well, that explains that. It's like you're having to spoon feed all this exposition to people, and it ruins movies for me. I mean, they did that a lot in the new Superman film where they just spoon fed exposition. It's terrible, terrible writing. I really do. I feel like all the creatives, or not the creatives as much as the executives, and they just think people are stupid. Then again, I'm looking at the political turmoil we're in, and there's a lot of stupid going around. So I don't know. Maybe they're right. If half the country is stupid, then, or the other half thinks the other half is stupid. I mean, it's maybe someone's right. I don't know who's right, but someone might be right. We have I like Coke. I like Coke Zero. It's pretty good. Harris Teeter, which is the local grocery store, they have a zero cola, and come to find out it's like packaged and canned and all that kind of stuff at the Coca-Cola plant. So it tastes just like Coke Zero. That's the funny thing. They either way they make money. Coke is nasty. Come on, man. Come on. It's not that bad. I don't drink a lot of them. And then see, like right over here, I've got water. So I've got Coke and water, but yeah, I don't drink a lot of soda, but every once in a while you want something. I spent a couple of days in hell. I did a short about this the other day. I turned 50 back in April and had to get my shingles vaccine. Dude, you get the first one and it rocks you really hard, and you're really banged up for a couple of days, chills and all that kind of stuff. And then the next thing you know, you got to get the booster 3 months later. I got the booster this past week and it just rocked me again. So I'm feeling much better now. But it was crazy, and I was trying to get the vaccine in case they decide to not give it out anymore. I'm looking at what's been going on with the crazy shit with RFK and all the stuff with the vaccines. And I'm like, nope, I've seen what happens to people. You can look up on TikTok or even YouTube videos of people that have shingles outbreaks when they're like elderly or they're in their 50s. And like even Harrison Ford had to cancel an appearance at and give an award away at one of the award shows because he had a shingles outbreak, because he's in his 80s and I guess the shingle vaccine wasn't available, and it only came out maybe a decade ago or more. I don't know, but I guess he didn't get it when he was 50, in the 90s or whatever that was, early 2000s. But yeah, so anyway, I was like, well, I'm not going through that shit, so I'm getting mine. And now that I'm all better from that, I'm going to be getting my flu shot and my COVID shot this week. So got to protect yourself. I believe in science. So if anyone out there is like, oh, you don't get the fucking vaccine, don't do it. I'll roll the dice with the myocarditis or whatever, the heart thing. It hasn't affected me yet. So, if I'm an outlier, then so what, But like I had a conversation with Mel Gibson once, and I was working on a movie with him, and I told him I was vaccinated, and and I didn't have any effect from it whatsoever, and he looked at me and he said, "Well, you must have gotten the placebo." So maybe I got the placebo, and maybe ever since then I've been getting the placebo, and maybe I've been marked by CVS to only pull out the placebo and give me the placebo, which is why I haven't been affected by any of the vaccines. But anyway, cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Is anybody excited for any of the new Star Wars stuff that's coming out? Mandalorian, Grogu, Starfighter? I'm not. I just, I feel like at 50 years old, I was at the pinnacle of it. I saw The Empire Strikes Back in the theater when I was a kid in 81. I saw Return of the Jedi in the theater when I was a kid. Obviously it wasn't until they were re-released that I got to see the original New Hope on the big screen, but I'd had them on VHS for years. I'm a huge, huge Star Wars fan, but Have the Borg paid you a visit yet? No, no, they haven't. um, I like Star Trek too, by the way. But yeah, I'm not excited anymore. I don't know what's going to ever get me excited about it. I just feel like it's over, like all of it. And maybe it's just that I've moved on as a human being, and the next generation, like my daughter, who's 5, loves Rey Skywalker, loves the prequel trilogy. And I like the first one, The Force Awakens, but I didn't like the other two. There were moments that I like about the other two, but my daughter, literally, Rise of Skywalker, I want to see her heal the snake. I want to heal the snake. Get to that scene, and I have to scroll and get to the scene where she heals the snake. Like, she loves Rey Skywalker, And then I show her the prequels, and she's all about Padme, and she's 5. She's going to be 6 in November, but she just absolutely loves, like, I hate Attack of the Clones. I like the Phantom Menace and Revenge of the Sith. There are moments I can like about all of them, but the original trilogy still just has a great place in my heart. But in retrospect, I watch Return of the Jedi, and I shake my head at the Ewoks, and I'm like, when I was a kid and I saw that, this just was great. But as an adult, I'm like, the fucking Ewoks, I don't know, man. Like, I don't love them as like I used to. And then with the special edition, they went in, they made their eyes blink and shit like that, and they did these little tweaks. I don't know. I have my 2 favorite Star Wars films ever. 2 out of all of them that they've made. And I am like a true Star Wars fan. Number 1, The Empire Strikes Back is the best Star Wars film on the planet ever. You can tell me it's another one, but it's not. It's okay. I know it's right. And Rogue One. Those are the 2 best Star Wars films ever made. And that's how I feel. And so when I do rewatch Star Wars, and I do rewatch, even if it's in the background, I'll just throw on Empire Strikes Back. It's either Empire Strikes Back or Rogue One. Now, my daughter is always asking to put on Return of the Jedi because she loves Jabba the Hutt. She loves Salacious Crumb, and she will replay all the Jabba scenes. And then when we play with Star Wars toys, she's always going, "You're Jabba." And I got to be Jabba, doing all the hot teas and all that stuff. She's seeing things through the lens of a child, and I'm seeing it as a bitter adult going, and maybe that's why nostalgia is such a big thing for people, because it's the shit that they remember when they were a kid that they thought they were in love with. But then in hindsight and retrospect, you're like, All right. Let's see. What do we got here? We'll see how the Mandalorian movie does, since next year it doesn't have a high budget. I don't think it's about, what is it, 150 million is the budget? Here's the thing about Star Wars at this point. One of the things that they talked about was the build out of all of the worlds that they were doing, the digital assets they have. Anytime they need an X-Wing, they just pull one, because they've had X-Wings in all the movies now. They pull it out of storage. They've already got the Millennium Falcon in storage that they could pull out and reassemble. They don't throw that stuff away anymore like they used to, where they used to trash everything. They have all the costumes from, all the episodes of Endor. They've got all the weapons that they've made. Ahsoka. They've got such a library of stuff that, like, when they do a new show, it actually cuts the cost down, because they can go, oh, well, we need 5 Stormtrooper costumes. Well, you don't have to make them from scratch anymore. You just call up the archive, at Disney, and they just pull what you need. You need costumes for background. Well, you don't have to make them from scratch. They pull, and that was the whole point of building out the Star Wars universe, was so that they wouldn't have to keep spending money on shit. They've got so many assets. They've got digital assets, digital planets, digital everything, the backgrounds. So then they just pull those resources because they own them. So the costs of these movies are going to start coming down, because at this point, there's no reason to spend 250 million on a new Star Wars film when you've got all these assets. So hopefully that'll be the case going forward. Yeah, Star Wars Starfighter is coming in 2027. Um, oh, thanks, brother. I appreciate it. Yeah, she is a precious, precious little girl. I'm kind of an older dad. I'm 50 and she's 6. So she's always saying to me, uh, "Chase me, daddy." And I'm like, "Oh, you want me to run after you?" She wears me out all the time. She's a good kid, but she loves her Disney princesses. She's a big, big time into K-pop Demon Hunters, and I've been dealing with that, which is great because it's actually stuff that I enjoy too. I don't mind that at all. And but she's really embraced Star Wars, which was something that I was a little scared of. I thought maybe she's going to be scared of this. Maybe she's not going to like this. She's just going to want all the pink Barbie shit. But no, she still loves pink Barbie shit, but she's all about Star Wars. And I was like, okay, well, this is good because I'll survive. Um, and she wants to see Jaws, but I won't let her. I saw Jaws when I was 5. And if you think about it now, it was rated PG in 1975 with the shark killing Quint at the end and ripping him apart and the blood and coming out of his mouth and then the girl getting killed in the beginning and then the arm, and all this kind of shit. And you're just like, that shouldn't have been rated PG, but it was. That's just what it was in 75. They just didn't have the rules. Um, uh, Hold on, let's see. When Moff Gideon first showed up, they had those from the 501st Legion swing by. That's the resource. Yes, yeah, that's probably an example of one of the best resourceful things they ever did. Now, I have friends that are in the 501st Legion, so I know they're really, really accurate with their armor. I've worn one of their costumes. They're fantastic. And I know they were very picky about what they brought out. And when they needed them for that big battle sequence, that was great. But then as time has moved on, that gave them enough leeway to build suits. Because the ones that you see going forward in Andor and all the other ones, the Kenobi series, all that, it wasn't the 501st. It was just when they were doing Mandalorian, they were building out that stuff, and they didn't have enough stormtrooper costumes. They were like, well, we want to battle, and we need 50 stormtroopers, and you only got 10 suits. What are you going to do? So I love the fact that they use the 501st. And the thing about the people in the 501st, if you know anything about cosplayers, which I'm sure you do, they know how to pose. They know they move just like the ones in A New Hope. Like they understand how to shoot the gun. They understand how to march forward and shuffle the feet the right way. And so you're getting that. You don't even have to train those guys in the background. You don't. You just tell them you're going to be over here and this, you're going to point here and do that. And these guys, it's great. I worked on a Star Wars fan film called Sins of the Jedi back in 2003. You can still find it on YouTube. I played a Jedi Knight, and we had the 501st guys come out. And we, at that point, before any of the Star Wars films or anything that's been made, we had the most amount of 501st guys assembled for a Star Wars fan film ever. We had something like 30, 40 guys come out in stormtrooper costumes. And they traveled in from everywhere. It was crazy. And we shot this thing, and it turned out really well. But, it was shot before digital cinema came around, or digital cameras. So it was shot in SD, standard def, and it was shot, with tape. So it wasn't like a digital slot card you could, download. You had to transfer the tape to the computer, and it was a long process, and visual effects weren't as good back in 2003 as that they are now off the shelf. You can get something, we were still rotoscoping lightsabers every frame, where now you can just put two spots and it tracks the lightsaber. You don't have to do the work that we did back in 2003. But it's a shame we never got that movie finished. We'd shot 2 episodes of it. We have half of the third in the can, but could never get it finished. But it was pretty good story. But yeah, I played a Jedi in that. It was pretty cool. One day I'll show my daughter. I haven't really shown her those yet, so she doesn't know that I was a Jedi Knight in something. But yeah, it's a great example in The Mandalorian when they did that. I wish they never made the PG-13 stuff rating. This shit is stupid. Well, I mean, I don't know, man. Like, uh, what the first movie that was ever PG-13 was Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, and that was because of the ripping the heart out of the guy's chest. It's pretty rough. And so I don't know. I think they should even have ratings lower than PG-13. I think they should have like PG-10 or PG, 8 or something. That was my problem I had with the new Superman film was, it was rated PG-13, but there was a lot of they cursed a lot in that movie. Like Lois Lane said asshole several times. Superman said shit. Um, you know, what's his name? Mr. Terrific was like, I'm goddamn Mr. Terrific, and Lex Luthor blowing that guy's brains out. Like I felt like anyone that brought their 8-year-old to see a good Superman movie because they were pitching it with the dog and all that stuff is like, this is going to be like a great kids movie. And then James Gunn had to James Gunn and put his third grade potty humor into the fucking movie. And I think people should have been warned a little bit more than just a PG-13 rating. They should have said, yeah, there's some stuff in here that's not so good for kids, for the 5-year-olds that show up in Superman costumes, and then they see Lex Luthor blow a guy's brains out. Yeah, I don't think that was the smart move on their part. Um, but yeah, that's that. What else has been going on in the world? I don't know. The world's been crazy. I've just been dealing with the stuff that I've been dealing with in my personal life, um, and being with my kid in this crazy time, and being with my wife who just had a major surgery. And we're just trying to heal. But then like every day it just seems like there's chaos. It's chaos every day. And you just the one of the things about TV and cinema, whether you're watching something streaming like Friends. My wife is she loves watching Friends, and she'll watch her Law and Order Special Victims Unit and all those other kind of things. It's like their escapism. They're check your brain at the door so you can watch something for 2 hours and forget about all the crazy shit going on outside in the world, you know, and that's what entertainment's there for. That's why we need humor. That's why we need to laugh. We need, but everything's so intertwined now. It's just, it's fucking exhausting. But it is what it is. Anthony, what do you mean, right? Are you talking about the PG-13 stuff that I was talking about, or like having lower ratings than PG-13, like PG-10, stuff like that? That's what I was trying to figure out. And then what? Look, I don't know who this. I was looking at the music stuff. There's this. I don't know if he's a hip hop guy or rapper, David, but it's D4VD. He cancels his U.S. tour because they found a 15-year-old dead girl in the back of his Tesla in the trunk. Are you kidding me? Like I'll never understand celebrities that like end up freaking out and killing people. Because like it's like you have the world at your you have the world at your fingertips. And you're like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Anytime you kill somebody, and you're just, I gotta pull this up. Okay. So this guy here, I don't know who this guy is. I don't know. Maybe I've heard his music. Dave Deforted. I don't know. But I saw this and I saw the article, and they found a body of a missing girl in the trunk of his car, and she's dead. And you're like, why do these guys? I say these guys loosely. I mean, it's a term for everyone, not just him. But why fuck up a good thing? Like you're on the top of your game, the top of the world, and you got to kill somebody. Like why? You were blessed with all the stuff that that you've been given, the opportunity you've been afforded, and you screw it up. Or look at somebody like OJ Simpson, or who was that other music producer with the crazy blonde hair, the old white dude with the glasses that killed a woman and stuffed her underneath his staircase? You're just like, what? Like, dude, you were like one of the biggest movie producers or music producers of all time, and you're gonna do this? It's insane. Tony, what do you got here? It seems shows like Andor is rather no, you're absolutely right. The writing that Tony Gilroy and his brother did, Dan Gilroy, on that show is so relevant to what's going on right now. But if you think about it, when it comes to Star Wars, it's always been that way. You look at the original Star Wars trilogy, that was all about the Star Wars was all about the Vietnam War, and the rebels were the Vietnamese fighting the empire, which was the United States. You look at the prequel trilogy, that was literally all about the Patriot Act, all about giving control to the government, all about, the war on terror after 9/11. Like, that's what those movies were all about. George Lucas has always had his pulse on that stuff. And that's why when Tony Gilroy peppered his entire thing all on, you know, things that are currently happening, that, like, if you don't pay attention, this is the empire is going to form, fascism. Like, it's coming, you have to fight. And, people don't see that stuff. They're just, I want politics out of my Star Wars. All I want is lightsabers and lasers and spaceships. I don't want all the shit that goes with it. You mean like storytelling? It's so funny. Did you see, apparently George Miller's Mad Max The Wasteland is now being reworked as an HBO Max series? I saw the one Mad Max they did with Tom Hardy, but I didn't see the Furiosa one because I really wanted a sequel to the one with, Tom Hardy. And so I don't know. I've never been a fan even of the originals. Like, I watched them, they were cool. Mad Max, and then Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, and then the original one, which was, what was it? The Road Warrior. I like those movies. I don't love those movies. And even as a Mel Gibson fan, like of his movies, yeah. So I don't have a dog in the fight on the George Miller thing. It always seems like George Miller is always trying to do something so big that maybe you have to break that up into a series. You can't just tell it in one movie, the story. And but who knows? Who knows how any of this stuff's going to shake out with HBO Max and with Warner Brothers. I'm telling you, if they end up selling to Netflix, which I don't think that'll happen. I think it's probably, my money was on Universal putting their toe in the mix, because Universal wants to have their own an epic universe, like Disney has the MCU, and they've got all that MCU stuff and all that in the park. They want their own IP. They want, because they still have that Amazing Spider-Man thing in the Islands of Adventure, but they still have that, like, rental thing going on with Sony. But they want their own superhero franchise, and they want to put that into the Epic Universe and have its own part of the park, and they've got to buy that. And so, that's why I was like, well, if Warner Brothers goes to Paramount, which I think would be, it's like they don't have a dog in the fight when it comes to being able to utilize it other than on TV and animation, where Universal Studios would milk that cow for everything it's worth in their parks as well. And I feel like the IP needs to end up over there. But if Netflix gets it too, like Netflix, they're a streaming platform. They don't care. They're never going to have a park, like Epic Universe. They're not going to do any of that stuff. And so I really feel like Universal NBC needs to pick up the ball and run with it, and buy up Warner Brothers. And then the long awaited, I saw Mel Gibson was just talking about yesterday in a video on YouTube, which I had conversations with him about Lethal Weapon 5. And he still is saying it's coming, it's coming, but they just won't fund it. Warner Brothers won't put the money up and get it made, even though they're close to being ready to make the movie. So, and that's where I feel like, Zaslav, all these guys, they've just dropped the ball ever since they took over, kind of burning bridges with Clint Eastwood and just everything, all the people, Christopher Nolan, all the people that made Warner Brothers, they just like kicking everybody to the curb and trying to streamline and cut this and cut that. And then they've just cut their nose off to spite their face until now they need to sell all the shit, which I think one of the reasons why they're selling too is because the bonus package every year for Zaslav was 52 million. And then the board finally was like, no, we're 38 billion in debt. We wrote off 3 billion last year. We've had 7 hits this year, but it doesn't even matter that we've had 7 hits this year because we're still 38 billion in debt. And they cut his package down to 6 million, his bonus package from 52 million to 6 million. And now all the rumors started that they're going to sell it off, because if they sell it off, he gets a golden parachute worth way more than the 6 million and the 52 million. So his play is just to pad his own pocket, Zaslav. That's why this thing's going to sell. And it's got nothing to do with anything other than the fact that, it's all about his money. He didn't like that they took his money away. And so, they'll offload it, and we'll see what happens. But HBO Max, I don't know. We'll see if the Mad Max Wasteland thing gets reworked into a series, and we'll see where it goes. But I don't have a dog in the fight. I could care less for a lot of the Mad Max stuff. I know a lot of people like it, and I don't shit on it. If you guys like it, you like it. It doesn't interest me like other properties do, So, oh man. And let's see what else has been going on in this crazy world. So you got the kid that's got the dead girl in the car, and this thing with Jimmy Kill, and we talked about the Stallone with the de-aging thing. Yep, we talked about that. But I feel like Stallone's time has run its course, and he's just holding on to everything he can hold on to. And I get it. I think when he came back and he did the Rambo movie, and did 2 Rambo sequels. I thought John Rambo was good. The one where he rescued those missionary workers. The last one he did, where he went in to rescue the girl that was kidnapped by the sex traffickers in Mexico. I didn't like that movie so much. I don't think it was very good. And so I'm sure, and it didn't make a lot of money. So I'm sure, like in his heart, he wanted to do one last thing. And after seeing Dial of Destiny and that entire sequence and everything that they've been doing now, that Tom Hanks movie, which was really good, that I watched. I'm trying to remember the name of it, where they de-aged everyone, or they showed everybody through time as they got older. Fantastic movie, by the way. And leave it to Robert Zemeckis to break more new ground. I mean, he told a whole movie from one location. They never left the house. And to do it and to have a beautiful linear storyline like that was great. Actually, non-linear, because they did jump back and forth, now that I think about it. But it was a good movie. And Stallone's like, I could still do it. I got it. And then, but you're like, nah, dude, you don't. Like, you can't. They can de-age you, but what you don't want to happen is like what happened with The Irishman, where they de-aged like De Niro, and then there was a scene where De Niro was like beating this guy in the street and kicking him, but the face looked like a 40-year-old dude, but the body was moving like a little old man, like kicking somebody. And I swear to God, if you watch that scene where he beats the guy up who runs the grocery store, drags him out into the street, you laugh, because you're like, dude, like, it's like an old man kicking somebody, but they digitized his face to look young, and it just pulls you right out of it. So, Stallone has had neck vertebra fused from the Expendables, spine issues. Like, dude, like he's now doing like Michael Keaton and Batman. He can't move his head. He's got to do this when he moves, because his head is all frozen. And you can de-age somebody, but you can't do the action and run and turn your head like an 18-year-old, at a boot camp in Vietnam would have been able to do. So the only thing you could do is face swap, which, you just need all the scans of his face at that time, and then digitize that onto a younger actor who has the body and frame and everything that Rambo had. Um, I just don't think people want that. People didn't want the last movie. So I don't, and I think this prequel TV series or whatever they're doing now with Rambo, I saw the kid that they cast. Uh, it's just that does nothing for me. Like I was like, and I love the first two I love First Blood, one of my favorite movies of all time. I can quote that movie. And even the second one, when he goes back to Vietnam and saves the people, the Afghanistan movie, I could live without. And then John Rambo was like, what a return to form. What a fantastic movie. And the gore level was just through the roof on that film. And then they did the one with saving the girl in Mexico, and that was just so bad. Yeah, de-aging technology looks great now than it did 12 years or 13 years ago. Absolutely. Absolutely. They get better and better and better and better. But you can't, unless you're going to motion capture somebody in a suit to get their body right, face swapping somebody on an 80-year-old body, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work, you know. And so then you get to the point where it's like, well, why don't you just recast? Just recast. Get a new actor in the role and just recast. And I think they missed the bar with Sebastian Stan replacing Mark Hamill. He even had Mark Hamill's blessing. You know, he literally said, yeah, um, you can take over the role. You'd be perfect as Luke Skywalker. And then for whatever reason, Disney didn't see it. They didn't want to do it, and they just wanted to do the de-aging thing. So, did we miss an opportunity? Sebastian Stan was already in the Mouse House. He was um, already in the Mouse House. From the Winter Soldier and all the stuff with the Marvel. So it's not like we didn't have somebody already teed up to take on that role. So, but it didn't happen. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. The tech is great. It's going to be great, you know, years from now. And again, it's getting better and better and better. I've been real against a lot of the AI stuff, and then all of a sudden, um, I just the other day, the Google dropped their new AI program where you can do photos and stuff, and so I started playing with it to see what it could do, and I was really blown away by what it can do. You know what? Maybe I can add a pic. I did a picture. Did a picture of me. Let me see if I can find it. Mm, uh, where did I put that image? Did I label it AI? I did a picture. All right, you know what I'll do? First thing I'll do is I'll pull up a picture of the picture I inserted into the AI. And I said, I want to um, do something with this photo. So let me show you what I put in. Okay. All right. This photo was a behind the scenes photo taken of me for a TV like spec pilot we were trying to get off the ground called Ballistic. And I had I had like a development deal with a company out of Los Angeles, but the SAG strike happened and the writer strike, and it just like killed. It was an 18-month deal, but it killed like the whole thing because nobody could do anything with it, and it just sat there for months and months and months. But so this is a picture that I uploaded to AI, and I said, um, and I want to see if I can add. I'll probably just do one at a time. Um, No, I could add another image, I think. So I put that in and I said, all right, give me a photo of this character leaning on a desk um, in a police bullpen at night, make it cinematic, make it moody. And then this is the picture it came up with. and I was kind of blown away. Um, I was kind of blown away. That is an AI rendering of the other photo that I put in. And then I said, well, why don't you can you create uh, uh, that character in an alleyway holding a gun at night in the rain with police tape, um, you know, and then it cranked this out. So this is, and I had said cinematic with the police cars in the background, with crime tape at a crime scene, and he's got his gun out, and that's the image that the Google AI created for me. No, different head turn, different eye turn, different everything. Yeah, they're finally getting the yeah, it's finally getting the hands correct. It is. And so, but this is the original photo. This is literally from a photo shoot. Okay. And this is what it cranks out, these images. Not the same angle I'm standing. It wasn't like a Photoshop thing. Um, and there was another uh and then there was another photo that I didn't like, and I'll just put this up because sometimes it's a couple of different tries. This wasn't too bad, but if you zoomed into it, the likeness of me was slightly off. It wasn't exactly me, where the other shots captured me perfectly. And I was like, yeah, I can't, okay, we're not going to, can't do that. And what I was thinking was, so there's these things that we use in the film industry called pitch decks, which are a series of images that let um, what you're looking for when you're pitching. It's almost like a Google Slides or like a PowerPoint presentation in a PDF. You send this to a studio, you get a pitch meeting, and then they can pull that up, and then they look at it and they see all the things that you want. And so I was trying to see, well, could I update the pitch deck with, more fleshed out pictures and things, and that where that's what it came up with after I told it what I wanted to do. So I was really, really impressed with that. But yeah, but again, like you have to keep trying, and that's the problem. I know they're getting ready to do uh a full Pixar type movie with AI, and the problem is when you like it may take you 100 tries to get one shot to do what you're asking it to do, where if you talk to an animator, you can say he's going to walk here and his hand's going to go over here and grab this, and they'll start to work on that, where all you're doing is trying to get the animation correct by prompting it properly. But it to me, it's not there yet. These were multiple tries. And let me see if I can so there's another character in that, and his name is uh, it was going to be played by an actor called Raymond Shepard, and I had this picture from the pitch deck of his character. I'm going to put it in here so we can see that. So this is a picture of one of the other actors that's going to be in this project. I said, okay, so I uploaded this into AI, and again, like just to see if I can you know get this to work out right. I said, all right, let's put this guy. I said, generate. You have to give it specific prompts. So I said, let's generate an image of this character standing next to a high-end sports car in a parking garage. Make it cinematic and make it moody. Those were the instructions that I gave it, and the AI cranked out this, and I was like, oh, that's pretty good. So here you've got something more to show versus just a character holding a gun, or um oh, hey, what's up, Mike? Tree toppers and more. What's up, buddy? I know I still need to come over to your house and check out all your Batman stuff, I know, and all your display and all your figures, the things that you've collected. I know I got to get over there. I'm sorry. I was thinking about calling you because I do need some work on one of my trees. But thanks for checking out the live stream. So yeah, you got This picture, I think, when you feed it that and you get that, not so bad, not so bad. And then I was like, well, I really wanted to have the guy in like an action stance, and I said, I basically said, uh, um, can we do it again? And can you have him holding his gun in his hand? And this is what it came out with for that. Okay, but it wasn't. And I thought, wow, I mean, to capture, first of all, this is the side of the face that you're getting with the AI. You're getting this side of the face, and then the AI can just make the character look the other way. Give it the sports car. This time, instead of the last sports car, they put a Ferrari in here, parking deck. But the way he's holding the gun isn't the way you would hold a gun. Like you wouldn't have your finger on the trigger. You need, when you're a cop, you have to have, your finger doesn't go on the trigger until you're ready to pull the trigger. So this is not, this is bad trigger safety. So you can't, I don't want to represent that. And plus, I really wanted him holding the gun up and kind of aiming it. And they really just didn't do that. His expression on his face didn't look very good. It didn't have a concerned look on his face or whatever. But that was based off that photo. So I give it that photo, which I think is a better photo, which is actually taken by a real photographer in a studio. And this is what it gives me. And this has that uncanny valley, the dead eyes. You like this one, you can look at it, that person looks alive, but when you look at this guy, he looks like a zombie in his eyes. So the AI is there, but it's not there, um as far as that goes. But some of this stuff turned out better than I thought it would. um but again, like, and as I look at the pitch deck to see how I can tweak it, I haven't added any of this stuff to it uh at all, because even though I like it, it doesn't give you the right dimensions for like a pitch deck. A pitch deck is usually, let me just pull up an image from the pitch deck itself so you guys can see that, because this is interesting stuff, because you guys don't, you know, um, the pitch decks are supposed to look cinematic. So you want them to, um, they end up looking like this. Okay. So this is actual footage from, we shot a sizzle reel for the project. And so this is, 16 by 9, shot on a red, I think it was a Red Dragon camera. And so, when you're looking at this, this is, cinema grade, Netflix grade stuff. So the pitch deck looks more like this, where it's images of all the stuff that we shot versus, uh, I'll pull up another one here so you can get an idea. So, this is like an image that was shot from it, but I think that was actually, let me remove that one, because that one had, you try to do things with Photoshop it, after the fact. But let me see if I can get a better representation of that. I think maybe like this one. No, a little bit better. But anyway, you want to add things to your pitch deck that that are cinematic. And sometimes what you do with a pitch deck is you grab images from other movies, because we were in talks with Mario Van Peebles to play the police chief in this thing. And he had gotten the script, and he had read the script, and he liked it. But we were waiting. He didn't want to do it. We were going to try to get it on BET Plus, the series, with the people that we were working with in Los Angeles. But he didn't want to do it with BET. He wanted a different streaming platform, because BET doesn't, they don't do the, not higher budgets, but they were going to do it for, uh, the money wouldn't have been, correct. Let's just say that the budgets would have been extremely small. I mean, a network television show could be anywhere from 2 million to 4 to 5 million an episode, depending on the show. And but BET Plus, they'll pay 200,000, 400,000, 800,000 for an episode. So everyone's compromising on their pay. And so, Mario basically was like, call us back when it's not BET plus. Just call us back when it's not BET plus. But the people that I was working with in Los Angeles, they already had an in with BET plus and already had other shows on there. So it was a slam dunk that we could get it on there. But again, the development deal kind of fell through during the strike. The writer strike is really, really rough for us there. AI seems to change the background image with each attempt to create an image. Yeah, even when you use the same prompt. No, absolutely. Again, I remember when there was a time when, for like 3 months, quite a few years ago, 3 months, there was an app you could use where you could put your face in a movie scene on top of another actor. And like everybody was doing it, and they were putting themselves out there as like, in the Terminator movie or in this or in that. They put themselves as like, uh, you know, um, Rambo or whatever, and then everybody was doing it, and then everybody wasn't doing it. And I feel like AI is really, it's really been a fleece on hedge funds, because I think that, yes, it streamlines businesses, and yes, you're going to lose jobs in certain areas, but in the end, I don't think AI is everything that's been cracked up to be. And I think we're finally, the hype for AI was about a year ago, and it was like, woo, and then, but now if you look at everything that's been trending with AI, it's slowly going down. So all the promises that AI was saying they were going to do, they're really not delivering. So I think AI will be a tool in the toolbox, if you will. I think if you're doing opening credits for a TV show, you could use AI to do that if you wanted to. If you need a last minute drone shot that you didn't get when you were on location, I think you could prompt that. I see a lot of like aerial shots of jungles and things like that AI can create that look really, really well, and could pass. And so my thinking is, if you're going to do things with AI, do that. But and fix things if you like. If you need to help out a shot, I don't know, but for most part, I feel like AI in general, like if you're using Chat GPT and things like that, it's really just a souped up version of Google search. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, it'll help you do a template, versus you creating a template if you're doing like a form or something. But it's not life changing. I just don't see it as life changing. Now, when my wife was going through this surgery that she just had, every time I got the doctor's notes that I needed it said to me in layman's terms, I would upload it to one of the AI platforms, and it would give me a summary of everything my doctor said on like a high school level, because some of the stuff was so beyond like my pay grade, that I think AI did a really good job helping me understand cancer and the things and stuff that my wife's going through. And she had a crazy lung transplant type surgery. She is the first person in the United States to ever have it. It's called an auto lung transplant. They pull the lung out, they do surgery on it, and they put the lung back in. And so, yeah, I think AI is a useful tool, but I just don't think it's going to do the things that they need to do. I'm sure AI is a useful tool as needed, but I imagine if it doesn't have the human touch to it, yeah. I when just for shits and giggles, when ChatGPT first came out and everybody was like, "Oh, you could write scripts with it and all this kind of stuff," I think I spent 2 days, maybe three, writing an 85-page script with ChatGPT for a movie. And the structure was there, the basics were there, the character dialogue was horrendous, so you had to do a rewrite. But if you needed a skeleton of something done and fleshed out in 2 days, 3 days tops, it works. But you're literally going, okay, I need a new scene between this character and this character talking, having coffee, and a car crashes through, the window while they're sitting at the window seat. at the coffee shop, and it'll crank it out, but it's very bland. It's very vanilla. And that's again, Tony, like you're saying about the human touch. You need people to still be in the loop. You need people to still do a pass at it, to fix it, to get it right, because it's just not right. Because all it's doing is resourcing other shit that's out there that it's already been fed and pulling here and there and there and there and there. It's not really thinking, right? It's not, it's artificial intelligence. It's not real intelligence. It's not really thinking at all. It's just assembling. And that's why most of the stuff that comes out of AI is bland. So yeah, and that's why I think, like, I can't say that James Gunn used AI to write the Superman script. But one thing I will say is he cranked out one season of Peacemaker, the Superman script, and was almost already done with the Superman or the Peacemaker season 2 season before, because they'd already shot it before Superman was even released. And he's credited as the sole writer on all of it. There's no way he wrote all that stuff by himself. And I know a lot of people are thinking that maybe he used, like ChatGPT for help. And yeah, like when he said he already had a 60-page assembly of this Man of Tomorrow script when he was on the red carpet. Yeah, because he probably fed a bunch of the comic book storylines into like a ChatGPT and said, can you give me a story based on this comic book run, and that comic book run? And I bet that thing cranked out a 60-page script or a 60-page synopsis, detailing what he wanted to do. And then he can pick and choose the things that he likes, what he doesn't like, edit it and do a second pass. But I just don't believe he's writing all this stuff. When you look at something like Andor, where Tony Gilroy and his brother tag team wrote it together, and I write myself. So I know what it takes to write. And James Gunn's not that big of a genius that he can crank out all this stuff and be the only sole person that does it. So there's a lot of people online were saying that might have been why the Superman script and a lot of the stuff he does is just very bland, is because he's, being assisted by AI to crank it out as fast as possible, which in return means he doesn't have to share the money. So when you have a script, and let's say it's a television script and there's multiple writers, everybody gets a cut of the revenue of the, right? So there's a script for your episodes, $300,000. They're going to give you $300,000, but if there's 2 writers, they got to split that money. If there's 3 writers, they got to split that money 3 ways. So that's how it works, right? Unless you're being called in to just work one scene. And it's what they call like a mini room, where they'll call somebody, or they'll send 2 pages to another writer, and then they get paid like a daily rate for what they're doing. And then they say, can you tweak this? And then that guy will send back his ideas via text, and then they'll give it, the script supervisor will make some corrections, and then you got the scene fixed. But you think about what James Gunn's been doing. So not only does James Gunn get his salary as the CEO of DC Studios, he also gets the money for the screenplays. He also gets the money for directing. He also gets the money for producing. So he's getting paid 4 times for every project he touches. And to me, that's greedy, unless he thinks he has a finite career ahead of him, where he's about to, never work again. And he's trying to make as much money as he can. To me, not letting other people help you in a process and doing all the stuff you're doing, and literally like milking a cow for every revenue stream out of every project, it's really selfish. But again, don't hate the player, hate the game. I mean, it's rigged that way. But you look at people like Christopher Nolan, or you look at, that'll use David S. Goyer, to write scripts for him, and he'll direct, but he doesn't take writing credit. There are people out there that don't do it all because they like for things to be collaborative. But then you got somebody like James Gunn that doesn't want anybody telling him anything, and he'll do all of it, so that he doesn't have anybody to bounce off of. Let's see. Right here. Boom. Yeah, your take on Superman was spot on. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I know it was a long video, my review on Superman, but I really believe I nailed it. And, it had 43,000, almost 44,000 views of that one video. And there were so many people agreeing on that stream or on that comment section. I did not get a lot of pushback from people telling me I was wrong. It's like 80-90% people telling me, oh my God, you were right about this. And if you go back and you look at my every time a new thing came out, whether it was the NBA basketball ad or, the Milk Bone ad and all this kind of stuff, I kept telling people, I was like, this is not going to turn out well. And when you hear the test screenings and you're hearing all that stuff, I kept saying, this is not going to turn out. It's not going to be a good movie. It's a very mediocre film. As a father, I truly appreciate it. Yeah, no, that's cool. Bob Bean. Whoa. Hey, buddy. What's going on, man? I love what you're doing with the cars. I can't say I love what you did with the truck. I like it and I'm glad you're happy, but I miss the black. The tactical tan. I mean, it's good, but yeah. Anyway, I miss it. But anyway, yeah, when it comes to Superman, yeah, it was just a bad movie altogether. What is that? It's too what? It's too black. It was too black. Yeah, no, I get it. Bob Bean, fantastic guy. He was one of the original guys to ever don the Darth Vader suits and go on a cons before anyone else. Custom built. He had his own company called Vader Painter, and he would do the lenses and all sorts of stuff. And the whole suit, his suit is fantastic. And Bob's, I think you gave your suit to Steven Sansweet, right? Who's the largest collector of Star Wars toys and memorabilia. He even has a museum. I think you gave him your suit once you retired from wearing it. So I hope he has it on display. Oh, you donated it to Steve. Okay. Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's great, man. I really hope he's got it on a mannequin at the museum. Fantastic stuff. So yeah, Vader Painter, miss those days going to all the cons and stuff with you guys. But yeah. And you were a member of the 501st too, weren't you? Back in the day? As just Vader, I think. Anyway, you can comment. You don't have to comment. Doesn't matter. Love you, man. And I like your new dogs. It was fun. Yeah, we went to Star Wars Celebration 2 together. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Star Wars Celebration is great. I don't know if you guys go to a lot of cons, but for a while there, I was crushing it. Go to Dragon Con every year, Star Wars Celebration. I'd go down to Florida and go do a con in Florida, Florida Expo. Just fun stuff, man. And behind me, I've got my Indiana Jones cosplay on a mannequin. Big Indiana Jones fan, so got that up there. Emperor, yeah, because I used to do the Arnold Schwarzenegger impersonations all the time. So Emperor Arnold, yes, it is absolutely fantastic. All the Star Wars stuff that we used to do at the cons, it was great. It's just like being in California, except that you got the Star Destroyers and you got all the X-Wings and all these things. I used to do that. I used to have somebody that would let me, they'd give me their cell phone and go, can you do, the voice message for voicemail? And I would do it as Arnold Schwarzenegger for him. It's fun stuff. Miss that. But yeah, man. So, but Superman, I don't have any hope going forward with DCU. I think it's all garbage. I don't like Peacemaker. I don't like the cursing in it. I don't like the fact that they've got superheroes in an orgy scene, with full on dicks hanging out, on Peacemaker. I think it's disgusting. I think, when your target audience with crypto and all this kind of stuff are kids, and then you've got, James Gunn out there saying the events of Superman directly affect what's going on in season 2 of Peacemaker, and then you watch the season episode premiere of Peacemaker, and Peacemaker walks into an orgy where there's like 5 guys with their dicks hanging out, and you're going, wait, you didn't say this. You should have said this wasn't for kids. I mean, we already knew that Peacemaker wasn't really for kids, but when you say it directly ties in with Superman, and you're going to have Superman cameo on the season of it, and show up at some point, that's not cool for kids. Like, you can't. That's why I think James Gunn's he's a little twisted. I think he's mental. I think he might even get off on watching, John Cena hook up with his wife on camera. Like, I think he might be that guy that like gets off on that. And so, yeah, not a fan of James Gunn and his sick, twisted humor. I think it's bad for Batman. It's bad for Superman. It's bad for Wonder Woman to have a guy involved in all this stuff that just likes to talk about fart jokes and shit jokes and orgies. And yeah, I see what you're saying in the comment section. I see that. If I say it on my stream, it might get flagged, so I don't want to go there. All I'm saying is it's odd that they put this guy in charge of everything. And they're letting him do even Creature Commandos is a cartoon. And there was a scene where, what was it? Rick Flag, like, took one of the characters and put him up on a bathroom sink and started having sex. And you're going, this is a fucking cartoon. Like, and I'm glad I didn't take my daughter to see Superman, because when Supergirl shows up at the end and she's drunk and she calls Superman a bitch, that's not the first thing I want my daughter to see of a superhero character like Superwoman, who's supposed to be this great character, and could be possibly a role model to look up to. She shows up like a drunk party girl crashing through the building and then calling Superman a bitch. I was like, I am so glad I didn't take my daughter to see this garbage. And the cursing was just, why would Superman have to say shit? Why? Why did Lois Lane have to say asshole multiple times in the movie? Why did Mr. Terrific have to go, I'm goddamn Mr. Terrific? Why couldn't he just go, I'm Mr. Terrific? When they were like, are you sure you could shut down the computer? He was like, I'm goddamn Mr. Terrific. And he started getting on the console. And I'm like, why couldn't he just go, of course I can. I'm Mr. Terrific. That would have been just fine. Just fine. But no, he's got to throw in all this sick shit that he puts in there. And I just got a bad taste in my mouth. And I think it goes back all the way to Trauma. I mean, he did a lot of Trauma movies, back in the day. Like, that's where he kind of got his start. Was his education was, where like James Cameron was with the Corman, he was with Trauma. And those are a certain type of film that there's a genre there that people who are hardcore, Trauma fans, Toxic Avenger, all that kind of stuff, a lot of, boobs and rapey jokes and stuff like that. That's Trauma. But you don't, you could take the guy out of Trauma. You could, what's the phrase? You could take the guy out of Trauma, but you can't take the trauma out of the guy. That's really what it is. Like, he's putting Trauma on a mainstream level with superheroes. You can't do it. You can't do it. You alienate half the audience. He had an opportunity to win all the people that like the Snyderverse and all the newcomers, but he still cut it down the middle. And then he pissed off more people with all the jokey jokes and the third grade humor and the cursing and all the stuff. The movie was just garbage. It was just garbage. It was like a Saturday morning cartoon with cursing. It was like Adult Swim, with superheroes. And I just have no faith in any of it. And I think if he had his choice, he wouldn't let Matt Reeves make his movie, even though he's letting him make his movie for the Elseworlds. I think if he had a choice, he'd shut it all down and just have his own Batman for himself, which, that's coming, which, again, that'll be confusing for people. But yeah, fucking James Gunn. I don't want to like spending most of my time bitching about James Gunn, though. I'd like to move on from that. Someone had commented earlier about The Long Walk, that movie that Mark Hamill's in. I haven't seen it yet. It's a Stephen King thing, where the people are walking to win $1 million or something. And then, every time someone can't walk anymore, they kill them right on the spot. You know, I think that's the premise of the movie from the trailer that I seen. It looks pretty wild. Um, but I love this like resurgence of um, everything that Mark Hamill's been doing lately. Like, uh, you know, he was happy. He even says he's been on the record on a lot of these press junkets that he was happy just doing voiceover work. But when he got pulled out to do the Star Wars stuff and they whipped him in shape, made him lose all the weight because he was, he didn't think he needed to impress anybody anymore. So he got a little pudgy, loses all this weight. And then all of a sudden it's like, boom, he's knocking out roles left and right. Um, oh yeah, it's the long walk is like an American squid game. Yeah, exactly. Um, and he's just been his, he never really went anywhere, but if you wanted to say this is his third act in his acting career, he had the first act with the big success with the Star Wars and everything, and then he went into the second act, which was voice acting, and he's very happy. And he still lives in the same house he bought in the 70s in Malibu. I think it's in Malibu. He never bought another house. Like he's got the same house. I'm sure it's paid for. And I think his net worth is like $20 million, which isn't much, but for most people that's great. But in Hollywood, you know, I think Harrison Ford's net worth is $450 million. It's still not bad, and I'm sure he makes a lot of money, on the side cash wise at these cons, signing autographs and stuff, which he doesn't have to do often. But I remember talking to an actor that I knew that was on a hit TV show, did 107 episodes of a hit TV show. And he told me that, anytime he's short on cash, he keeps himself kind of rare. And anytime he's short on cash or he needs something to do at the house, he'll go do a con for the weekend and make 30, 40 grand in cash, signing autographs. And then he keeps himself sparse. So he's not, so his, you know, so he doesn't like run out of people to sign for, you know what I mean? Like, you only can go so long in your career before like you're the guy at the con that doesn't have a line anymore. So, you spread yourself thin like that. Um, so yeah, you keep yourself in demand. And I think that was really cool that he would do that. And I think a lot of people now, cons used to be like the place nobody wanted to go. Oh no, we don't go to those things. It's bad for your acting career. Now it's part of every actor's literal business model. They all have to have a podcast now. They all have to go to cons and sign autographs. These are all revenue streams that now they utilize, where before they used to frown upon all that. Anytime he was asked to do Joker, his only stipulation was, oh yeah, that he wanted to be with Kevin Conroy was involved. That alone must have been enough for him to know how good the project was. Yeah, I mean, and then I guess, once Kevin passed away, he wouldn't do it. I'm sure they'd love to get him back to play Joker, but I respect that position to not want to do it without his actual his arch enemy, his nemesis, if you will. Like, and in real life, like I'm sure they had a camaraderie when they were in the studio. I don't know if they worked separately, but when I did voice work on about 30 animes back in the 90s when it was really popular. The animes, they were really pumping them out, bringing them over to the US. I did about 30 and all different characters. And, we would do our lines separately. So I would have the lines fed to me from the other actor. And then I'd deliver mine and then they would incorporate it in. And so I had something to play off of, but I would think that it would be much better to have the actor there in front of you. Which I think they do that now sometimes. I saw with K-pop Demon Hunter, they had all the girls in a semicircle with microphones doing the lines and they could play off each other. And I thought that was great. But then, I heard the Larry the Cable Guy, when he did Mater for the Cars movies, I think he came in and he was all by himself and he delivered every single line by himself and had a director through the glass. and he never bounced off anyone else. It was just like him delivering the lines. So there's those kind of experiences too. So, but yeah, I respect Mark Hamill for not doing anything else. It's almost, you know, like how can you, when you've done great work with somebody like that and then they pass away, or again, if he wasn't involved, if they were like going to cast a different Batman, oh well, just let somebody else do it. I'll let somebody else play the Joker. If you're not getting Kevin, I don't want to do it. We're good friends, that kind of thing. I think that's great, that they had that relationship. But I do miss going to cons. I saw the pictures from Dragon Con this year and that were showing up online, and I thought, great. And then I saw the one shot of the Hyatt, the big area where all the bars and stuff are, and it looked like people were packed in there like sardines. And I thought, COVID, flu, like I think about those things now versus like going and having fun. When I see everybody packed in one room like that, I was like, oh dude, no thanks, man. No thanks. I'll go to some smaller cons that are a little bit more airy, but they pack them. So, I mean, I think the last Dragon Con I went to, there were 85,000 people showed up over the 5-day week, 85,000. And I think the attendance got to be lower than that now after COVID. But still, it was just too many people, too many people. Something could go wrong. There could be a stampede. I mean, I just, you hate to live in fear like that, but, it's too many people. I just don't like being around that many people. Not anymore. I used to, but not anymore. Now I'm like, nah, I want to do my own thing. Um, but anyway, so we're almost at 2 hours. I'm going to go ahead and sign off. I know I've been rambling a lot. Um, but I don't really live stream often, so I'm going to try to do this a little bit more than I used to. So I hope you guys enjoyed hanging out with me and hearing me ramble about all sorts of shit. I'll try to have something a little bit more organized in the future. But yeah, thanks for humoring me, man, and thanks for everybody that stuck around and enjoyed the live stream. We'll see you guys on the next one, okay? Oh, make sure subscribe to the channel, like and share if you want, not necessarily this, but other things. I'd love to get to 10,000 subscribers. Got 7,500. I'd love to get to 10,000. If I can get to 10,000, it kind of spirals into and snowballs a little bit. So if I can get there, that'd be great. So if you haven't subscribed, be sure to subscribe. I really appreciate it. And we'll see you guys on the next one, man. Take care, everybody.